Are you laughing at me?
Get your jacket on finally. Ah,
Well, because once I got my hands on her, I was like, ooh.
yeah.
Good morning, everyone. We'll do a quick mic check here. Anyone online can come off mute and let us know you can hear our voice.
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. All right, folks. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Recording on. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for those joining online. This is our quarterly director stakeholders meeting here at Chillicothe VA. My name is Terry McCord. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I'm the executive assistant to the medical center director here at the Chillicothe VA. We have many of our team members around the room this morning, and so I've already seen you all interacting, so take advantage of those folks in the room. We got some great presentations for you this morning. For those that not aware of this building layout, bathrooms are back into the corner there in the right. Coffee and cookies are in the back, so please make sure those are gone before you leave the building. And we'll go ahead and get started. Without further ado, I'd like to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you all could rise and join me. Thank y'all very much. With that, I would like to welcome our Medical Center Director, Mr. Kenneth Mortimer, to give us a welcome.
Knock that off. Okay, so this, if nothing has quite so reminded me of church as a stakeholder meeting, I've got the regulars in their seats in the back, and I've got the dedicated few up here in the front, so I appreciate that. So I want to just talk a little bit about some of where we are. So this is actually my 18-month anniversary as the director here, which I think I've beaten the spread. So that was always that's always an exciting thing to think about. But I want to say just how grateful I am. I know one of the first pieces of feedback I got was, when are you going to bring back the stakeholder meetings? Well, this is our 5th, and it's our 3rd one here in Building 9 with some much better furniture now. Kudos to our voluntary service and our interior design and other folks for bringing that along. But also, we've had 2 out in the community. We're able to have one out in Hillsborough that I was sorry to miss, just due to a scheduling conflict, and then we had one out in Noble County. So I think, again, that idea of let's bring these back, but then let's also take the road on the show, so to speak, and get out and about into our community where our veterans live, which is a lot of fun. So I think of some of you had asked me, I had an unfortunate encounter with gravity. The floor won. But thank you all for your kind well wishes. I don't want to take too long of your time, but I do want to just talk a little bit about where we are as a facility. So we are actually up. Remember, if you recall, when I first got here, I said I wanted to focus on growth, and I wanted to focus on growing our services, growing our staff, and growing our veterans. So where are we at with all that? Well, growing our services. We've now opened 2 units, one of which you are going to hear a lot about from Lindsay. That's our Serenity Square Community Living Center neighborhood, which is a first of its kind service. But Lindsay tells that story so much better than I do, other than I can say it started, the work started before I got here. I just got it across the goal line. So and not me, but a whole host of people who were engaged in that work. Warriors Path, which is our acute inpatient rehabilitation unit. As of a few weeks ago, we had 41 discharges from that unit. And why is that significant? Well, once we opened that unit, our referrals to the community basically dried up. We were able to meet our demand and then some. We actually were able to serve, I believe, 8 of those discharges come from the Columbus area. Because remember I said a while ago that 23 runs both ways? It's not just us pushing stuff out, it's veterans coming here. Well, they're coming here and they're getting those services from our friends up north are sending them that way. The other interesting thing about that and why I love that unit is because as a taxpayer, I love it. So we figure we've deferred somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 million that would have gone into community care that's being delivered here for veterans. We figure we have to get to about 3.6 million in order to break even for the cost of what we, pay the staff on a yearly basis. But you know what? That's 5 months of work. We opened this unit April 15th of 2024, and we're already more than halfway to breaking even. And more than that, that unit has a 7% readmission rate. Why is that important? Well, if you go to pretty well any hospital, including a VA hospital, with congestive heart failure, there's about 11% chance you're going to be readmitted to the hospital within 30 days. So a 7% readmission rate is pretty phenomenal for those veterans who are coming post major surgery, post long-term, inpatient hospital stay. So we think we're doing pretty well for our veterans there, not only in terms of being available and delivering excellent care. We don't have any results from Serenity Square because it's been open a grand total of 6 days, maybe 7. So it's still a work in progress, but I'm excited for the direction we're going for our veterans. The next step was or we growing services, growing staff. Well, our staff, we're not up as quite as much as where we were earlier in this year, but we're still about 11 staff over where we started our 2024 fiscal year, and we've grown substantially over that time. But more than that, that growth in staff has been directed at those veterans. 2 new units does not happen without some growth, and those 2 units are about 50 people. We figured about 25 staff to run those units at their current bed levels in order to deliver that. So we're plus 11 for this year, but we've taken a lot of that demand organically within our personnel heading. And why is that significant? Again, we're taxpayers. We want to be good stewards of the dollar, that whether it's Congress or our donors who are kind enough to provide resources to support us throughout anything, we're looking for how we do that well. More than that, our staff has grown. We activated our Grow Our Own program that has actually allowed us to take some of our existing staff or staff we hire and train them to be nursing assistants, which is one of our hardest to recruit positions. So we've grown our own there. We've had leaders like Dr. Tran, who graduated from a national leadership development program for leaders across the United States government. We've had staff go to national leadership development programs for staff within the Veterans Health Administration. We've grown a number of folks who have graduated from our network's leadership development. So we're growing them, not just in terms of numbers. I don't want us to get fixated on numbers, because numbers are a wonderful thing, but when you come in these doors, are you given an opportunity to grow as an individual? And if the answer is yes, then I think that's a better form of growth, because it's not just creating a job, but it's allowing that person in that job to take the next job and the next job, and taking that institutional knowledge and growing it forward. And then the last thing is growing services. Well, 2 new units is a pretty exciting set of services to grow. But we've hired 2 providers in a dermatology clinic that we didn't have at the beginning of the fiscal year. We've expanded our cardiology staffing. In fact, we just have a new nurse practitioner who's going to be taking cardiology services out to our community-based clinics, because it can feel awfully lonely out on the east side of the catchment area. You're a long way from the flagpole. And we're doing that in Portsmouth. We have a podiatrist who is actually taking services down to Portsmouth. We have podiatry, and we actually have more neurology care in our clinics than we do up here in Chillicothe, which is pretty cool. We've expanded access to virtual care in nephrology, so kidney care, vascular surgery, which is kind of cool to think about. You can have a virtual care for a surgical specialty. What else are we doing, Doc? Sorry, you know this stuff better than I do. Yeah, thanks, Terry. See, this is why Terry's the man.
I was going to add, primary care physicians are one of the hardest specialties to recruit. And since the last time that we've met, we've added at least 3 primary care physicians to our team, and that's saying a lot. Yeah. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that, if you don't mind, we just
please go for it. He knows this stuff.
So sometimes our vets cannot come to us for care, and so we have programs such as home-based primary care to have our team to go out to them. And we've, in this past recent months, we've reached the high watermark in terms of the numbers of veterans being cared for at home and then graduated and then doing well on their own. The other thing that I'd like to brag about is that Chillicothe has become a model in many ways to other systems within VA and outside of VA. For example, our primary care team have gone to other facilities within the Vision 10, within the states of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana to basically teach them how to run primary care better. But not only within Vision 10, but we also have our primary care team went to New York to offer insights on how to basically run primary care more effectively. And then outside of VA, we had people from the Ohio prison reached out to us because they are interested in how well we run how our ability to transfer care from patients to a proper place and right places for the next level of care continuum.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Tran. So this is what I talk about when I talk about growth in services. Not only adding new things, but getting better. The other thing, out to our community-based clinics, I think pretty well all but our smallest clinic are now offering chiropractic services. Maybe not every day, but some. And in the pain management world. Again, it's not just about growing here in Chillicothe. We have some outstanding community-based clinics and taking those services to them. Speaking of taking care services, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we continue to grow and have great experiences with our mobile clinic. And we are actively working on figuring out how we expand our mobile primary care and take that beyond just Wellston and look at some other areas. I know Hillsborough Buzzard has been toward the top of our list as another opportunity, and certainly there are many others. And the last thing I wanted to mention is what comes next. What are we working on? Well, I tell you what, it's still growth. But we're doing it in partnerships. So one of the things I'm really excited about is, fingers crossed, and they're not here till you can hug them, but in early November, we expect to have a urologist starting on our staff. But that urologist, much like our general surgeon who comes down to us from Columbus, and our surgical podiatrist, because that podiatrist who's going to Portsmouth actually does surgery, that urologist is a partnership with the Columbus VA so that we can offer those surgeries to those veterans. We don't have an operating room here, but I bet veterans are more likely to stick with a provider that they know and trust them, even if they have to make that trip to Columbus, getting their follow-up care here. And then again, we have a surgeon. I want them operating. I want them doing all the things they can do for veterans. This is going to allow us to do that. He's come very highly recommended and very highly skilled, and I'm looking forward to that partnership. And so that's what's next is really, I don't think we have any of the big flashy new units, though I expect we'll be cutting the ribbon on a new Wilmington community-based clinic during fiscal year 2025. But we're looking for those partnerships, how we bring that service either into the Chillicothe fold or partner with somebody else to do it. I think with any luck, we'll be maybe not in fiscal year 2025, but calendar year 2025, I believe, a replacement for our Lancaster community-based clinic as well. And then the only other thing, growth in veterans. That has got to be, from my standpoint, the #1 priority. And I have an idea in mind, and it's going to need all of your help. And I'm going to tell you guys this. I've kind of socialized it with a few, but I'm going to just ask you, do you think, this is the ask, do you think we can get to 30,000 unique veterans in 3 years? Right now, we have about 22,000, maybe just shy of 23,000 unique veterans preferring with Chillicothe as their preferred facility. I'd like to shoot for 30 in 3. That's about 2,500 veterans a year who chose either to come into VA, whether it's through the PACT Act, whether it's through other veterans saying, hey, come here. I think we can do it. And all that stuff about the market assessments and all that stuff about, is Chillicothe a system worth saving? Well, we've proven that. We've proven that. We've proven that we can innovate. We've proven that we can grow. We've proven that veterans can have great outcomes and great experiences. Now's the time to build on that. And so if it's a pipe dream, you guys got to tell me, but I think we can do it. And I think it's going to take everybody here, and I think it's going to take all of you, whether from our partners in the healthcare space, whether our partners in the veteran service organization space, whether our partners in the congressional and the state, but I think we can do it. And how cool would it be in 3 years, that would be the beginning of fiscal year 2028, because we're entering 2025 now, October 1st of 2027, to be sitting at 30,000 veterans who say Chillicothe is my home. We'd knock people's socks off. They would be amazed. And with 30,000 veterans, what resources does that bring into this place that we can start offering in partnership with our peers? Because I don't think 30,000 veterans will bring us an OR. But what resources will we bring if we get to that point? So, and like I said, I haven't socialized this with anybody. Y'all are the first. In fact, I could see Alan Graves over there writing down numbers saying, holy buckets, what kind of check is Ken writing here? I think we can do it. And I think with your help, and with a whole lot of help from amazing people who are sitting in this room, I think we can do it. That's the only other, that's the vision. That's the big, hairy, audacious goal that we have to set. And I think for too long we lacked in Chillicothe. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to some people who I think are going to paint a picture for you about where we have opportunities and how we meet the needs of veterans that tell them we're here for them and we can make that 30 and 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mortimer. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the presence of our Associate Medical Center Director, Dr. Robert Taylor, online. He's not able to be here with us today. You've met Dr. Tran, who gave us some valuable words there a moment ago. Our ADPCS, Catherine Hillis, is not able to be here today. We have Miss Erin Yout filling in for her to hopefully answer some questions if you have those come up. So with that said, again, I posted this in the chat online. If you have questions online as we go through this, please feel free to come off mute or type those questions in the chat, and we will make sure those get addressed. And with that said, I welcome Lindsay Jeffers from our REC ICC to discuss our new unit, Serenity Square.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for allowing me some time to talk about our brand new CLC neighborhood. So CLC, for those obviously in the VA, we love our acronyms. So CLC stands for Community Living Center, also known as our VA nursing homes here on station. So for many, many years, we've had 4 neighborhoods, and this is our 5th neighborhood that we have added. And on the slide, you'll see some pictures of the opening ribbon cutting, which was held on September the 16th. We had a really, really great turnout and actual ribbon cutting. And on the picture on the left, you'll see our unit director. His name is Dr. Damaris. You'll see at the top members of our ELT. And then on the bottom, you'll see members of our Serenity Square nursing leadership, as well as the nursing staff for this new neighborhood. Next slide. So a little bit about this neighborhood and what it is and what we're looking to serve in regards to caring for this new population of veterans. So our mission statement for Serenity Square is that it is a dedicated, what we're terming a longer term mental health rehabilitation community designed to cater to the distinct needs of our veterans. Our mission is to support those who have recently faced challenges in their mental health journey or experienced a change in their condition. Through our comprehensive mental health rehabilitation programs and, of course, the unwavering support of our exceptional team, we empower veterans to achieve their personal goals. The devoted staff of Serenity Square CLC are committed to delivering veteran-centered care within a secure home-like environment that prioritizes safety. And a little bit about what we are. So again, this is a brand new VA community living center dedicated to serving veterans. It is a 5-bed secure neighborhood. We can go up to 10 beds and we will eventually, but right now we are serving just 5 residents at this time. All rooms on this neighborhood are private rooms. All veterans admitted to this neighborhood will have access to individualized psychotherapy, group programming, support from a very large and very exceptional team of individuals, which include our medical director, a psychiatrist, a social worker, psychologist, nursing staff, recreational therapy, dietitian, pharmacy, peer support, chaplain services, you name it. These veterans and residents on this particular neighborhood will have all of those services and then some. The picture you'll see on this screen is just a snapshot of one of the areas on this neighborhood. You'll see that there are some secure outside areas for veterans for this neighborhood. On the right side of this picture, you'll see one of our rec therapy rooms, which will show some additional pictures of that here shortly too. And a little bit about who we serve. So veterans enrolled in VA healthcare are eligible to be a part of this neighborhood. Veterans for this neighborhood do have to have a diagnosis of a serious mental illness. So that is one of the main criteria for this neighborhood. Also, we want veterans who have, potentially failed other inpatient, outpatient treatment modalities. So maybe have tried a lower level of care before moving into a residency such as Serenity Square. Not listed on the screen, but something I wanted to mention is that really the average length of stay we're looking for a neighborhood for a veteran to serve or to reside on this neighborhood is about 6 weeks to 6 months. So I think that gives a little bit of a good understanding of how long a veteran may be on a neighborhood like this. And really, we're looking for veterans who have an interest in reaching their goals toward their mental health recovery. Also, something important to note that makes this neighborhood different than, say, other mental health neighborhoods, both within our facility and within other VAs, is that we are able to care for veterans that have what we call activity of daily living needs. So if a veteran needs support getting in and out of bed with transition, like physical therapy, things like that, we are able to also provide that on this neighborhood too, which makes us unique. And a little bit about the referral process. So all of our referrals go through our CLC admissions coordinator, just as any other CLC referrals we receive here. So we do have the number on the screen as well as the extension for that. And any additional questions, I did put my name and information on there. Please feel free to reach out to me. We're really excited about this neighborhood because we really feel that this helps to really help veterans within a niche of care that the VA just hasn't done nationwide. And this truly is a first in the nation for veterans that maybe need a community living center type living setting, but also want to work towards that mental health recovery with the goal to get them transitioned to a lower level of care. That is always going to be the primary goal for a neighborhood like this and for veterans in this neighborhood. However, if a veteran would need to continue to have a higher level of care need, our team is going to work with them to make sure that we get them to the appropriate place, the appropriate housing, and all of those things wrapped into one to make sure that that veteran is cared for. Any questions? Yes, sir. Okay. And while he's walking, I will say we already have 3 residents. We opened last Monday, as Mr. Mortimer said. We already have 3 residents on the neighborhood, and also already screening 2 more for our last 2 beds. So we're really excited about that. Yes.
I'm concerned about veterans with complex post-traumatic stress. And if that complex issue leads to a stay that would go beyond 6 months, what would be the criteria to allow them to continue with the program?
Sure, that's a great question. And really, we give the 6 weeks to 6 month as just kind of a guideline. But every veteran resident admitted to this neighborhood, as all of our CLC neighborhoods, are going to have a personalized care plan. So it's going to be tailored to what their needs are. So if we're getting close to that 6 month time span, those teams, the treatment team isn't going to say, oh, it's 6 months, time to go somewhere else. Right. They're going to make sure that that care plan is updated, that veteran is getting that support. If that's continuing to be on Serenity Square, then that's great. They'll extend that stay. If they feel that that veteran may be better served in a different program that we have, then they're going to make that recommendation and work with the veteran and their family if they're involved to make that happen.
I think one of the things I want to add on that is many of you can recall the Vietnam era, where VA kind of just warehoused veterans because our health system didn't know how to support them with their needs. And I think the importance of saying this is about the time frame we want is because we want to be moving toward recovery and not having a unit like this as a place where we just redo the things we did, decades ago, and be focused on recovery and on helping that veteran get on that pathway. Now, as Lindsay says, every veteran's journey is different. And that journey may be taking outside of that, but I think it's always good to be entering in. And I love the comment about we want people who have an interest in their mental health recovery, because then that helps us be partnered with that veteran too. But I think it's always important to say, this is a place that we want to be a part of your journey and not the end of it. It's a great question. Buzzard.
When you was introducing this new program, the word serious kind of bounced around in my head. Can you define what that means when it's concerned to someone's admission to this new facility? What is serious?
So a serious mental illness would be something that a veteran actually has been diagnosed by somebody on their team, typically a mental health provider. There's specific criteria to meet the criteria for a serious mental illness. So things like PTSD, major depressive disorder. I know I'm missing more. I've got our suicide prevention folks back there. Schizophrenia, certain things like that, bipolar disorder, a serious mental illness would be in reference to that specific diagnosis that veteran has received.
Another way to look at seriousness is how far along that continuum of the condition is. And as we know, just like medical illnesses, there are times when we still have the disease. Let's take congestive heart failure, for example. We still have the disease, but we're doing well and we're stable. But there are times when that same patient goes into an area where they may need a higher level of care. And what Lindsay is describing is that we have a criteria, objective criteria to determine when it becomes serious. Probably the easiest way of determining whether it's serious or not is how are they able to function in the normal environment that they're used to. If they're not able to function well in that and it's affecting themselves and others negatively, that can be considered a serious exacerbation. And then just to continue your question earlier about how long the veteran would need to stay in that unit. And Lindsay, it's right. I mean, those numbers are just guidelines. But then there are also objective criteria where I think with the input and the efforts of this interdisciplinary team. And I think this is where this unit is distinguished from every other unit out there in VA, at least, and I could probably say in the private sector as well, is that this is an environment that is home-like, whose staffing is very mental health and rehab mental health focused. And just like physical therapy, there are times when we have to recognize that, okay, Mr. Jones can only walk 100 yards, whereas before he was only able to walk 10 yards. But our goal is to get him to 100. He may not get to 100 yards, but if he get to 50 yards and that's where he stays, that's better than 10. And so at that time, what we term that is reaching maximum capacity. That means as much as we push, we won't be able to go beyond that. But at that time, with the input of the multidisciplinary group, we have a better idea of where the next level of care is best for that veteran. And if he or she comes up to a point where the condition is worsened, then we can consider coming back at the same time. So it's a fluid decision flow that really is centered around how well the veteran is doing at the time. Yeah. Get to them to where they can optimally function, again, to bring them down from that serious level.
Also, in your introduction, you had said that I don't know whether it was you like for these individuals to be willing to improve themselves. So my question winds up being: is this volunteer or are there mandatory emplacements?
That's a great question. So at this time, the residents are voluntarily, admitting themselves into this type of programming and setting. Yes. Now, in the future, if we do get a referral on a veteran that may be what we would consider court ordered or, probated, like those type of terms, to come into our neighborhood, those veterans won't be discredited. We'll certainly take a look at those referrals. But right now, yes, the goal is for veterans to voluntarily have come into this new neighborhood.
Yeah. And I want to just emphasize sort of why we're starting small, why we're starting with voluntary and 5 beds. This is new. And the last thing I want is to go big and not achieve our goals. And certainly and do it again in a way that is safe. And, we get someone who's probated or something like that. Well, guess what? If we're not able to do this safely and I have to make the rather unpopular decision to say, hey, we need to take a break for a minute, we've still got to make sure we're meeting the needs of that veteran. So we're starting small, 5 beds, voluntary admissions, really, I think a deep look at those veterans because I want to get it right. And I think Lindsay and Dr. Damaris and our nurse managers, everybody on this campus wants to get it right because we're being watched. We're being watched by a lot of the rest of VA. I know other people have already asked for our plan because they see the value of this too for their patients. So let's get it right and then let's grow it. And then we talk about all the nuance, but anybody who started anything new knows you cannot plan for everything, even if you spend 2 years working on it. Thank you, Lindsay.
Next, let's welcome Jamie Russell from our Voluntary Service Department, otherwise known as CDCE, or the Center for Development and Civic Engagement. She's going to share with us some happenings in our voluntary service area.
Good afternoon, everybody. So those of you who don't know what voluntary service does, we're a small service, but we do great things. Right now, we have 260 volunteers, 38 of those being our transportation drivers, and that's through Pickaway, Pike, Ross, Guernsey, Noble, and Highland County. We have, there's a dollar sign, but it's really 23,499 and a quarter volunteer hours for the year. And we have saved the VA through volunteer hours over $600,000. And that's out of volunteer value at $29.17 an hour. And current and past events that we've hosted here at the VA on behalf of our organizations have been baby showers. We do a quarterly blood drive, fishing trips out to the Conservation League, bingo. We host a food insecurity meal quarterly. We do National Salute Week in February. We do lots of fun things for our veterans through our organizations. This year we did bring the summer carnival back, and that was a blast. Everybody enjoyed that. We currently schedule activities for our inpatients here on our CLCs and our community residential care homes. That's who's fishing today. And we schedule events for the homeless program, veterans through VTech and Building 3 Folk Rehab. We are doing an honor flight for our veterans here in our community. So we have approximately, I think the last count was 86 veterans attending this ride. And it's, now I'm going to get tongue tied, it's a 10,000th veteran ride for Honor Flight Columbus. And that's flight 136. So we fly out of here, we leave here at the VA at 5 in the morning, go to Port Columbus, and head on to DC. And that'll be October 10th. And we had tour buses donated by Knights of Columbus to transport us to Port Columbus. And that's the only way that some of our veterans are able to go. So they're really excited. So some of our big donations this year have been through VFW. They donated money so we could purchase a few vehicles. And VFW also purchased smart TVs for our CLCs and all of our common areas over on the units. So the common areas have 70-inch TVs, so that makes it wonderful for them to watch TV in those areas. Recently, we just got some PlayStation 5s for our units or neighborhoods. I'm old school, so I call it the old. So PlayStation 5s with all the accessories. So they're going to start doing therapeutic groups with those. And that's on behalf VFW Post 3331 out of Circleville, AMVETS out of Portsmouth, Post 2352, and VFW District 12. So I think right now we have them for all of our mental health units and including Serenity Square. So everybody's looking forward to that to get them up and running and their therapy group started. There's just some pictures of our fishing trip that the veterans really enjoyed. And when they go fishing, they have the equipment for 30 veterans to fish, and the volunteers provide a lunch for them. So this has been a great hit, and they go a couple times a month. We also hosted a Goodwill Summer Youth Program, and that was a very rewarding group we had this summer, and we hope to have 2 groups next year. And they worked in a variety of assignments, nutrition and food service, and housekeeping. And of course, for us here in Building 9, they help us deliver different items to our neighborhoods, and got to visit some of our veterans. Our summer carnival. This is the first time we brought it back pre-pandemic, and the veterans really enjoyed their day. And most of all, they loved the hot dogs. And who would have guessed, but that's what most of the veterans enjoyed the most, was the hot dogs. And we hosted a golf scramble through VIST, and we invited Dayton and Columbus, and Cincinnati backed out, I think, at the last minute, but we had a great time. The veterans enjoyed the golf scramble. It was a great event. So we're looking forward to the one for next year.
Speak to this because I love it. So VIST is our, for those of you who don't know the acronym, is Visually Impaired Support Team. So actually these were visually impaired veterans who were able to, with a buddy, actually go golfing. And who doesn't enjoy a day on the links? And a lot of very, very happy veterans. What was neat, some of these were veterans who were out there with their children or their grandchildren as their buddy, which I think is awesome. Anytime you can promote not only independence, but time with family too. It made the day really, really special. And thanks to our volunteers who, and VITI helped out a
Veterans in
lot with that.
Transition,
So.
yeah. Veterans in Transition was wonderful. They cooked the meal. They had little swag bags and everything just went off very smoothly. The weather cooperated. You know, everything went great. We couldn't ask for a better day. And we've already got it on the schedule for next year. So if you want to come down and participate, volunteer for the day, we'd love to have you. So we're having a police escort on the honor flight. I think I got ahead of myself on the honor flight, but we're so excited because we had training last night and we got our veterans' names that we're going to transport. And we have, I think, 20 staff here and volunteers that are going to be the guardians for these veterans. So it's very exciting. And the veterans, the calls that we're receiving still, calling us and thanking. And we're just a small part of it. It was Honor Flight Columbus who did it all. We just had a little part in help gathering up the applications and getting them, the veterans enrolled. So we do a big impact, and on behalf of our donors and our support from our community organizations, we couldn't do it without your support. So if you want to volunteer, if you have a few hours a day, few hours a week, few hours a month, we'll take anything you have to offer to make a difference in our Veterans Day. It always makes it worthwhile. So we have different areas to volunteer over on the units to go just talk to the veterans, pass ice, play a game of cards, play PlayStation, you know, and of course, volunteer drivers. We're always in the need of our volunteer drivers to assist. We have a coffee program that runs Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 11 over by the lab. We have a clothing room, greenhouse, patient escorts, any area that you might want to help and whatever hours you want to do. We would love to have you volunteer with us. So
Roll back to that slide.
Oh.
And Chris wants to
Oh.
take it.
we should have had some of the slides copied for everybody.
Sure, we can do that.
Next time. Okay. But come and see us up where our office is right upstairs. We'd love to sign you up. And if you don't have transportation or can't come to the facility, we have the compassionate contact where you can just call a veteran and talk on the phone. We have some lonely veterans in the community that don't have you know, family or neighbors that they have contact with, and you can just call and chit chat for a little bit. So we're always there. Our job's never done. We're always processing a donation or looking for our next donation to make an impact for our veteran needs. We supply hygiene items and different things for our veterans, and it's continuous. We have a clothing room that we serviced over 400 veterans so far this year. We have a lot of needs, and we did away with our food pantry, but we just now opened it back up, and it's going to be taken over by Nutrition and Food Service, but we're going to process all the donations. So if you want to donate some non-perishable food items or Kroger gift cards, Aldi gift cards, that would help a needy veteran as well with food insecurities. So we try to do our best, and always our focus is to make an impact on our veterans. And I always say, my heart's always on the veterans on our community living centers because this is their home. So I like for the volunteers to come in and just do that impact to say, hi, how are you today? And would you like a fresh glass of ice water?
Jerry.
Here's for Yanks. I seen it was back here in the lot. I don't know if people knows that we got a new bus from the American Legion for gifts for Yanks or not.
No, I was not.
They was using it. The last little bit we had, they was using it. That's how I took pictures of it. And I sent them to State Department because they've been working on getting a bus for the gifts for Yanks for days.
Mhm.
And I put him and sent some pictures so they know it arrived.
And even that's the other thing is even if donations don't come directly to us, if it's run out of a group or like our volunteer transportation network and all of our, I think pretty well every county represented here has somebody or some, VSOs bringing people. That's all an important part of cooperating together. Yeah, we've been very fortunate when it's come to donations. We actually got a police motorcycle donated to us, which of all things, never thought we needed, but boy, I sure like having it. But isn't she just amazing? Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. And I do have to brag a little bit with us being in such a small town in our Vision 10. I believe we're right at the top with.
Oh yeah, we collect more than Cincinnati does.
Yeah.
So.
And a small town Chillicothe. And that's what our organizations feel the same as we do, wanting to make that impact for our veterans.
Next up, let's welcome Julie Federici from our community care program.
Good morning. My name is Julie Federici. I'm the chief nurse for our community care department here at Chillicothe VA. It's great to be with you today. Start just by reviewing a little bit about the Mission Act, where we were and where we're going. So with the Mission Act in 2018, it made a significant impact, really increased our eligibility for veterans going to the community. There were options, for veterans that they didn't have before. The Mission Act, really those options for care, we're still based on that Mission Act eligibility. That eligibility has not changed. So I just wanted folks to really understand that we are still under Mission Act and still following those eligibility standards for care. So what are those? What are the standards for community care eligibility? What's called the static eligibility involves two things. One is drive time, average drive time, and the second is average wait time. And there are different standards and drive time expectations or wait time for mental health and primary care. You can see there on this slide, it is 30-minute average drive time to the closest VA for primary care or mental health, along with a 20-day expectation to be seen. For drive time for specialty care, it's 60-minute average drive time with an expectation of 28 days to be seen for care. So that's what we call static eligibility under Mission Act. Okay, and we're still following that. Okay. So what happened here? What's going on now? I know you guys probably have heard some changes occurring. We're starting to work together more closely with our VA partners. We are looking at really expanding our partnerships and what we can do to work together, whether it be virtual or video or telephone or in-person places for our veterans. So there is an initiative now for the soonest and best care, and it is called the Referral Coordination Initiative. Those of you that haven't heard that terminology, that is a focus now for VA. And really without an improved referral process, those scheduling of referrals takes more time than necessary. And our veterans are waiting longer a lot of times in the community. We're seeing that a lot and have seen that a lot here in the last few years. The veterans also, the way it was working, they might not know all their options for care. I've spoken with veterans throughout the last couple of years who said, I didn't know I could see my VA or see a VA provider. I thought I had to go to the community. So we want them to know every single option they have for care so they can make that decision for where they want to go. Veterans who prefer to receive internal VA care used to be referred to community or vice versa, like I said. So now what we have is under the referral coordination initiative is called the referral coordination team. We actually have dedicated staff that reach out to veterans when a referral is placed for a specialty, and they go through those options for care. They will let you know the soonest we can see you here at the VA or closest to VA, whether we can be seen at a partner within our network, or we have availability also with Wright-Patterson. We still work with them, or if they select community care based on their eligibility. So we really want to put the empowerment at the veteran hands. We want them to make that decision with all the information that's available. We do know a lot of times that we can see veterans sooner. And of course, we're hearing back from veterans that you guys do care a lot better for us than our community partners. So we're excited to hear that. Right?
Hey,
So,
can I
yeah,
just one
yeah,
thing?
sure.
So this isn't this referral coordination is not just for a veteran who may be going into the community. This is referral coordination even for our internal referrals, because it's all coordination of care. You know, we want to make sure that when a veteran goes to a community partner, that they're doing so educated and that it's handled and that we're supporting the care of that community-based provider, whether it's through managing prescriptions, medical records, authorizations. We want to do it well. And that's one reason why Julie introduced herself as the chief nurse for community care. The real title is care navigation, because it's how does a veteran navigate through their care within this system. And a lot of the work that we've been doing, one of the things that I feel particularly strongly about is that distance eligibility.
Yeah.
Because that's a shortfall on our part. That's saying we're not offering that care conveniently to you. So we can fix that. We can control that. But the rest of it, it's still navigation, because you know as well as I do, and Jenna, you know this even from the community side, it can be a mess. It can be horrible to navigate. But Julie's team does a phenomenal job, whether it's referral coordination or the care in the community folks, in making that process not as scary or intimidating or bureaucratic as the case may be. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt too much, but I wanted to just emphasize that.
So how a referral process works is that we do help that veteran go through all those steps. So we focus on sharing the options with the veteran, number one. You know, we have a referral for you to see cardiology. Well, here's what we have to offer. We can see you in 14 days, or we can see you in 20 days here. And let them know how and where and when they can receive that care. The big referral process goal is to improve that scheduling timeliness and to get the veteran to where they need to be, and get them seen timely, and also empowering them, which I've mentioned a few times. So here's what our veterans have said. Back in 2021 is when we first implemented what's called Referral Coordination Initiative. As Mr. Mortimer said, our department is called Care Navigation Center, so we help that veteran navigate through those steps and processes. We're still following the community care wait times. And with the implementation of our referral coordination initiative here at Chillicothe, we started at the end of 2021 fiscal year. And in 2022 fiscal year, we had about 856 veterans say, no, I want to stay in VA. I want to stay here. Even though I can choose community care because I'm drive time eligible, I want to come here. I want to be seen in VA. Last fiscal year, in fiscal year 2023, we jumped up to almost 2,500 veterans that said, I'm choosing VA. I don't want to go to the community, even though I can. And they were also drive time eligible. So far this fiscal year, we're approaching 4,000. And we're really, really proud of of basically the efforts going into this to really let our veterans know, here's your options and here's how soon we can see you. We also share our average wait time in the community with them. And sometimes it's doubled and, not as quick. It's a little bit more cumbersome to get through those hoops, and share the information back and forth. And we just really want to do what we can here for the veterans and get their care within the VA as much as we can. I did put my contact information here. I am the chief here at Community Care. I've got a direct line here to our Care Navigation Center. I do have business cards. If you would like one, I did bring some for you. I also put our nurse managers' contact information here. They also have a direct line to what's called our referral coordination team, who receives all those referrals in VA and works with my staff if it comes to community care. So lots of good things happening here within the VA. We're really strengthening our partnerships and working closely through what's called our Southern Ohio, South Central, South ESCOM, South Central Ohio market, which is Columbus, Chillicothe, Dayton, and also Cincinnati, working very closely together to try to improve even more specialty availability for our veterans. All right. Questions? Okay.
Lots of good information this morning. Next, we're going to welcome our privacy officer, Mr. George Fowler.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm George Fowler, and I'm the Privacy and Freedom of Information Act officer for the facility. This has been such an upbeat meeting, hasn't it? And I am always such a downer. Today is no different. It's my job. And what I'd like to talk about today is cybersecurity, scams, and scammers. So healthcare scams are a big business in a bad way. Last year, more than 540 healthcare organizations reported data breaches to Health and Human Services. This affected 100 million people in this country. In the month of August, which is the information that's on the slide, 20 breaches were reported to HHS. So far in September, there's been 22 breaches reported. Over 600,000 people were affected in August. September is even worse, with just over 4.3 million patients affected nationwide just this month. I want to mention too, if something like this happens to you, or you're notified by a legitimate entity that your information may have been potentially compromised, or you receive a letter from somebody named George Fowler at the Chillicothe VA, and they're offering you free credit monitoring services, by all means, take advantage of this. I had a veteran call me yesterday looking for advice. He said, George, my mom, my 85-year-old mother, received a letter like this. She doesn't have a lot of assets. We're thinking about that we're not going to opt into all of this. Well, his mother has a name, she has an address, she has a social security number, and she has a date of birth. If you're a scammer and you have those 4 things, you're in business. Next slide, please. So some definitions first. Spoofing is the intentional falsification of a phone number on caller ID. Phishing is sending emails purporting to be from a reputable company, trying to trick you into something. Smishing is like phishing. They just send you a text message instead. Catfishing, and I got a catfish picture, but it's not as good as Jamie's there on the outing for the veterans. But that's creating a false profile on a social networking site to deceive you, like a dating app trying to pretend to be somebody. Malware is software designed to infiltrate your device without your knowledge, causing damage and stealing your data. Think for a second how much information you may have on your smartphone. If you buy stuff online, you've saved those credit cards, you got Google Wallet, there's a whole lot of stuff on there. Next slide, please. So spoofing a number can be legal if no harm is intended. An example would be if a doctor called a patient back from his cell phone, but the caller ID reflects the main clinic number instead. So it's very easy to do. If you have a VoIP phone and you got an app, once again, you're in business, and they are enticing you to answer the call by misrepresenting their phone number. Remember, always remember, what they want to do is talk to you. If they can't talk to you, they can't scam you. So the best thing to do is to hang up or not answer the phone. So this summer, we have received reports from several veterans that our main campus phone number was spoofed. Most of these reports, not all, but most, concern an insurance agent that was attempting to sell supplemental Medicare plans. Phone came up as our mainline number. They said they wanted to schedule a home health visit. They didn't really say they were from the VA, but they didn't say they weren't. So the agent actually showed up at the homes of 2 veterans after they talked to the caller and set appointments. Fortunately, both of them ran the guy off. So we turned these reports over to the Office of Inspector General for VA and also for the centers, to the Centers of Medicare Services. Next slide, please. So once again, if this happens to you, just hang up as soon as you realize what's happening. Do not give out your sensitive info to somebody that initiated a call with you. You can always call back, especially if they say they're from the VA. You can always call us back. Just say, I'm not comfortable with this, hang up, call back and find out if what they're calling for is legitimate. Don't answer any questions, especially by saying the words yes or no. Don't allow them to rush you into a decision, because that's what they want to do, that involves giving up any information. Use your cell phone number blocking feature on the cell phone to block them. This feature typically also allows you to report the caller as spam. Next slide, please. So phishing and smishing are pretty much the same. They're just trying to deceive you with an email or a text message. Once again, they want you to respond to them. If you don't, they can't scam you. Never ever click the link in the message or hover over it. If you do, you just invited them to put malware on your device. Avoid any kind of immediate action where they rush you into making a decision, or fear tactics. A giveaway to look for is messages will sometimes contain poor grammar or spelling errors. So block the number, delete the message, and report it. Your email provider will have report phishing or report spam buttons for this purpose. Next slide, please. So we do see a lot of potential Medicare scams here at the facility. On the slide on the right is a fax. So usually what we get are faxes sent to a clinic asking a provider to approve stuff such as a prosthetic device, glucose monitors, or genetic testing. Remember, if you need a prosthetic device or a glucose monitor, the VA will provide that to you at no charge if you're a veteran. So remember the numerous healthcare data breaches I mentioned earlier. This is what they do with all that protected health information and your sensitive information that they steal. So this fax, you can see that there's poor grammar and a run-on sentence on there if you can read that. They're asking our provider to supply the patient's entire medical chart because Medicare will request that. And also to sign an authorization for a back brace that they will bill to Medicare. So the brace, or the fax says the brace is off the shelf, because if the patient even receives a brace at all, it'll most likely be from Walgreens and Medicare will be billed a fortune for it. Once they receive the person's medical chart, they can also sell all of that information on the dark web, and they can continue to submit false claims to Medicare for cash until Medicare figures it out. The worst thing about this, if you look near the bottom, you see like a little speaker. So that is a patient consent audio file. So before sending this fax, they probably called the patient, and elderly patients, unfortunately, are the biggest target of scammers. They talked to the patient gave them some information. Remember, never say the words yes or no. I actually called their recording bank that it has down there, and I entered the patient ID number. Basically, what you have is somebody, if you can understand them at all, saying on there, do you consent to have your provider release all of your medical information to us to provide you this service? And then you hear the person say yes. That's it. That is not a HIPAA compliant release of information consent request. Nevertheless, a scammer will throw out a wide net and reel in whatever he catches. So it's doubtful that the patient actually consented to all this, but once he said yes, he pretty much agreed to anything that they could exploit. Next slide, please. So that is my presentation for today. Remember, if they call you, just hang up or don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the phone number. Never hover over the link in the message and never reply. Don't let them force you into hasty decisions or let your emotions take over. Never say yes or no if you do answer a call. And yes, I still see examples of those emails from the lawyer wanting to give you billions of dollars. You just send your bank account number and the dead foreign prince, you'll have all of his money. So next slide, please. So those are my contacts. I'm George. I'm in building 1. Eric Schmidt is our information security officer. He is an extremely intelligent man when it comes to all this stuff. Evan Corzine is our records manager, my alternate. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time at all if you have any questions about privacy, freedom of information, information in general, scams, anything like that. Are there any questions? All right. Eric?
And finally, let's bring up Alan Graves, our public affairs officer.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to take a more positive approach. No offense to George. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Alan Graves. I'm your public affairs officer for the Chillicothe VA and the surrounding 6 CBOCs. I know we're a bit over, so I'm going to breeze through some of this kind of quickly. Essentially, we're just looking at a few recaps. So the big thing is our fair season recap. Now, you'll see on the screen the different fairs we went to. We have a 17 county catchment area, and there's a fair in every county. So it's very difficult for us to hit every single one. But these are the ones we focused on this season, and that led to about 200 encounters. And below that, a list of non-fair related events that led to nearly or just over 2,200 encounters. So what does that mean? It's not enrollments. It's just people that we spoke to, were able to give information to that were not specifically already enrolled that we're hoping to kind of bring in. And from that, according to enrollment eligibility, those 2,400 encounters that we had over the fair season led to an uptick of about 35 to 40 enrollments per month over a 4-month course. So we're looking less into the fairs and more into those extra events just because we're seeing more turnover for that. So we did have a brand new event this year, our inaugural 9/11 Remembrance 5K, which you'll see on the photos there. Fire department, some members of the fire department walked that in full gear, so that was impressive to see. We're going to start doing this every year, just kind of bringing new life into our events here on campus, trying to take advantage of these 300 plus acres that we have. And if you didn't get a chance to see the newspaper display, make sure you're on the invite list for next season because a lot of people felt very strongly about how that turned out. Moving to upcoming events, which is more of what you're interested in. We've got the Pumpkin Show coming up mid-October, our 8th annual Veteran and Caregiver Resource Fair towards the end of October, as well as Prosthetics Week Vendor Fair, 3rd annual for that, November 4th. The last two will both be in this building. So those are big things coming up. We have some other smaller events that are taking place, and all that information is already on our social sites. So if you're not following us at VA, the VA Facebook page, make sure you're doing that. And the big one here, tentatively scheduled for November 8th, our second annual Vet Fest. A few keynotes from last year outside of having George Washington himself show up. 500 plus participants, 30 information booths, chili cook-off, military displays, flu shots. So it's a really robust event that will likely take place right outside here in the parking lot. One thing that's not covered in these slides, the big thing that we're starting to work on, the plans are in their infancy, but looking at upgrading our TVs in all of our waiting rooms to actually have something of value to our veterans waiting in those waiting rooms. So we're, again, in our infancy there, but that's starting to come along very quickly. So with that, any questions for me? I told you I'd keep it brief. John. As Terry slowly makes his way back.
On August 28th, you posted that the VA crisis line was having intermittent problems.
Mhm.
And you gave an alternate number to call or something.
Right.
Has that been repaired?
Yes, it has.
I don't recall in that post.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll make sure that those updates get pushed in.
Could you say a little bit more about the prosthetics fair that you mentioned for November the 4th?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So again, prosthetics fair, it's a full week, or excuse me, it's prosthetics week. But we're having that vendor fair on November 4th. You're looking at 30 plus different community vendors here in this building. And that time is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Here. Silver Sneakers, a long list. And that's their third annual, and that's really starting to pick up steam. But yeah, November 4th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. here in this building. Buzzer. Just throw it.
All right. I found out that this country no longer gives a hoot about the POWs and MIAs. We went right through a POW MIA day. And I remember one year the radios announced today is cheeseburger day. I think yesterday might have been sardine day, or not yesterday, but Friday last week was sardine day or something stupid. But they never do nothing for POWs and MIAs, and it's always the third Friday in September. We forgot it, and it's a damn shame.
Are you looking to see a specific event for that? We did do a recognition post, but we didn't have an event for it. You want to see something more substantial?
So Buzzard, we can't control that, but I will say, for the past 2 years while I've been director, I've actually gone to the former POW Ohio chapters, their convention, which is a small thing, but I actually go out and talk to the families of POWs from the area. We actually just had the last session, and this was back August, I think. We actually had he was the last Air Force POW to retire he was a Gulf War pilot who got shot down. And he was the last Air Force pilot to be a POW. And I actually went and met him. He lives in Ohio now. So he's starting to come to those events. So I think what I'm hearing is we got to do a better job of telling that story. We can't control what the Chillicothe Gazette or what iHeartRadio plays, but message received. I think we can do more about educating about the nature of our POWs, and Lord knows, I mean, if there's any man who's going to figure out and can figure out how we bring veteran issues into the collective consciousness, it's Mr. Alan Graves. So. Message received. Like I said, don't ask me to change hearts and minds in the community, and or the acknowledgement of Sardine Day, but what we can do, I think we have the ability to control. Well, what we can control is ourselves and what we put out and making sure that we're putting out such as it's a big enough story that somebody else gives a hoot and makes a story out of it. But that starts with us. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I know that there's a group from Ohio, the XPOWs, and mostly family members at this point, but they get together for their annual conference up in Grove City, and that's where I go and see them. And I think it's several different chapters, and I don't know if it was Lancaster or Newark, or I know there's one that's up from out of Medina because they come from all over Ohio. Yeah, they used to. I think they're doing it now up at a Drury Inn. For the last 2 years, it's been at the Drury Inn, and so instead of them coming to us, we go to them. And I love it. They're wonderful people, and they do such a, um, for as small as a group as they are, it's a very heartfelt event, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Yeah, and Alan confirms it is that Lancaster chapter, as well as several others.
Any other questions?
Oh, now that I stayed back here, no other questions. Okay. I see how you are. That's fine. So we did have a question online, that is from Miss Julie. It is there a grandfather clause for the Mission Act, and the transition from Choice Act?
Yes, thanks for your question. There is still qualification under what's called the 40-mile distance requirement under the Mission Act. So those living in Alaska, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and also those who qualified under the Veterans Choice Program 40-mile rule are still eligible under Mission Act. There's more expansion of eligibility aside from the static eligibility that I covered earlier. And it is on our VA www.va.gov site /community care. There's tons of information on there. And you're welcome to contact me as well if there's questions.
All right, time to play Stump the Chumps. I'm the chump, by the way. What you got?
Let me cover one thing before we start that, sir. So this is the stakeholders meeting website. This is on our forward-facing webpage. If you go to the Chillicothe VA page, you go to programs, that's on the left hand. You'll see stakeholder meeting on the left-hand side there. That's where I'll be posting all these resources, because instead of me sending you an email that's got 14 gig that's clogging up your email box, that's where that'll go. I've sent this out in email to you all previously. I will get that out again in case that got lost in the shuffle. But this is where all the stakeholders meetings, presentations, and recordings will be posted going forward. Your floor, sir.
Well, it's their floor. What you got? I mean, I know we razzle dazzled you, but come on. Hey, Terry Dowdy. Well, it's not an event without a Terry Dowdy question.
Actually, it's a compliment for you guys.
Hey, all right, I'll take it.
A lot of the veterans over in the, where I talked to over in the rehab center, the new one, they enjoying that. Rehab is doing real good. They ain't compliment the food. So you can't beat that.
Well, so we can. You know how we beat it? We make it better. That's how we beat it. We can't beat it now, but we can make it better. And incidentally, so I gotta tell you, I listen to you folks. So at one of our meetings of the medical center directors, we were people were saying, oh, there's talk of bringing back the kiosks for beneficiary travel. There's talk about bringing that back. And I had just gone to a meeting where Terry Dowdy said, now, why can't we get it on our phones and get a text message about that? So I said, hey, why are we spending money on kiosks when we can get people we can send them text message reminders? And they said, let's check that out. So we're checking into seeing, can we get more of those text message reminders, the way we do reminder messages and all that, where somebody can just hit a link and get their travel mileage put in. We may still have to look at the kiosks and all that, but I'm here for it, Terry. I just wanted to let you know, I take what you all tell me to heart. And if it's something that I think we can do with the rest of VA, I want to do it. So Terry, thank you for that. What else you got? I didn't see any rotten fruit on the way in, so I'm not too worried. Well, thank you all for being here. Take some time. Oh, do you have a question, sir? Oh, take some time, talk to the people in the back. They got great things to say because they're pretty smart. I know because they work here. And we're glad you're here. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next stakeholder meeting. The other thing, tell your friends. You know, I love you all, and I appreciate your dedication, your willingness to come out. Tell your friends, bring more of them, because if nothing else, Terry's got to eat through all those cookies, and he doesn't have a great stomach, this guy. So he's got to, we got to get rid of these. Get rid of these cookies. So, all right, have a great day, y'all. We're adjourned.